Money is more than paper and metal. It's a reflection of power, politics, and pride. For South Africa, that symbol is the rand, a currency born in an age of gold and glory that has weathered apartheid, sanctions, democracy, corruption, and global change. From being stronger than the US dollar in the 1960s to losing more than 90% of its value today, the rand tells the story of a nation's rise, fall, and resilience. Today, we dive deep into how the rand came to be, how it once ruled the African economy, and how it became one of the most volatile currencies in the world. The year was 1961. South Africa declared itself a republic, cutting its last formal ties with the British Crown. Before this, South Africans used the South African pound, which was introduced in 1921 and tied to the British pound sterling. But the government under Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd, the architect of apartheid, wanted to create a currency that symbolized sovereignty and separation from Britain. And so, on February 14, 1961, the rand was officially introduced. The name came from the Witwatersrand, literally the ridge of white waters, where the world's richest gold deposits had been discovered decades earlier. That gold rush gave birth to Johannesburg, South Africa's largest city, and laid the foundation for its economy. At the time of its introduction, 1 rand was equal to 1.40 US dollars, or 10 shillings in the old system. This made the rand one of the strongest currencies in the world, backed by South Africa's immense gold reserves and thriving mining industry. The 1960s were a time of economic boom for South Africa, but also of deep racial division. While apartheid kept the black majority oppressed, the white minority economy prospered. The rand remained stable, supported by the country's gold production, which accounted for over 2/3 of global supply. Gold was not just an export. It was the backbone of the nation's strength. The rand became a regional benchmark, accepted widely across Southern Africa. During these years, South Africa's infrastructure grew rapidly. Highways, factories, and banks flourished. Foreign investors saw the country as a safe haven for capital. But beneath that glittering surface, international criticism of apartheid grew louder. By the early 1970s, when the Bretton Woods system collapsed and global currencies were allowed to float freely, South Africa faced new challenges. Its economic isolation began to show, and its political system made it a target for sanctions and moral outrage. The 1980s marked a dark turning point. International resistance to apartheid grew into full-scale economic warfare. The United States, the European Community, and the Commonwealth imposed sanctions and disinvestment campaigns. Major corporations like Coca-Cola, IBM, and General Motors pulled out. South Africa's access to global finance shrank dramatically. The government tried to control the crisis through exchange controls, limiting how much money could leave the country. In 1985, the situation hit breaking point. The rand collapsed, falling below 1 US dollar for the first time ever. That same year, President P.W. Botha gave his infamous Rubicon speech, where the world expected reform, but he instead defended apartheid and refused to release Nelson Mandela. Investor confidence evaporated overnight. The rand plummeted further, and the government was forced to declare a debt standstill, suspending foreign debt repayments. This made South Africa a financial outcast. By 1989, 1 US dollar cost nearly $2.50, and inflation reached double digits. The 1990s brought hope. Nelson Mandela was released in 1990, and 4 years later, South Africa held its first democratic elections. The world celebrated the Rainbow Nation. Sanctions were lifted, and investors cautiously returned. But democracy came with heavy economic baggage. Decades of apartheid had left deep inequality, high unemployment, and poor education among the black majority. The new government under Nelson Mandela and Thabo Mbeki had to rebuild trust, and fast. At first, the rand stabilized around our 3.60 to the dollar, but soon, global market crises hit hard. The Asian financial crisis of 1998 caused investors to flee emerging markets, and the rand crashed to over 6.00 per dollar. This era showed that while political freedom had arrived, economic freedom was still out of reach. The early 2000s were turbulent years for the rand. In 2001, the currency collapsed to a historic low of our 13.84 per dollar. Speculation, political fears, and global uncertainty after the 9/11 attacks drove investors away. The South African Reserve Bank launched an inquiry into what was known as the rand collapse. Although no single cause was found, it became clear that global perception could make or break the rand overnight. Then, surprisingly, the rand recovered. Between 2003 and 2005, it strengthened back to around our 6 per dollar, thanks to rising commodity prices, booming tourism, and the world's growing demand for minerals like platinum and coal. South Africa hosted the 2010 FIFA World Cup, a major success that boosted the economy and brought billions in foreign investment. However, the foundations were shaky. Unemployment remained above 25%, inequality was among the worst in the world, and Eskom's first blackouts hinted at deeper troubles ahead. In 2009, Jacob Zuma became president. Many hoped for a renewed focus on jobs and reform. Instead, his presidency was marked by corruption scandals, state capture, and economic decline. The Gupta family scandal revealed deep-rooted corruption in government institutions and state-owned enterprises like Eskom and Transnet. Global investors lost trust, and credit rating agencies downgraded South Africa's bonds to junk status. From 2010 to 2018, the rand's value eroded steadily, from our 7.30 per dollar to over our 15. Major strikes, electricity shortages, and policy uncertainty worsened the decline. By 2016, as Zuma faced impeachment pressures, the rand hit a record low of our 17.99 per dollar. In 2018, Cyril Ramaphosa took office, promising to clean up corruption and restore investor confidence. But soon after, the world faced a new challenge, COVID-19. Lockdowns crippled the economy, unemployment soared, and the rand fell to nearly our 19 per dollar in 2020. Yet again, it rebounded. As global demand for minerals surged post-pandemic, the rand clawed back some ground. Still, by 2025, it trades around our 18 to our 19 per dollar, depending on market conditions. It remains one of the most traded emerging market currencies, known for its volatility, but also its ability to recover from crises. The rand is used not just in South Africa, but also in Namibia, Lesotho, and Eswatini, whose currencies are pegged to it through the Common Monetary Area, CMA. Every rand note tells a story. From Jan van Riebeeck, who once symbolized colonial heritage, to Nelson Mandela, who now represents unity and resilience. The big five animals on the notes, the lion, elephant, rhino, leopard, and buffalo reflect Africa's strength and natural heritage. The rand is no longer a global powerhouse, but it remains a powerful symbol of endurance, of a nation that has faced sanctions, division, corruption, and crisis, yet continues to stand. From the golden heights of 1961 to the turbulent markets of 2025, the South African rand mirrors the story of its people, complex, strong, and ever-changing. It's more than a currency. It's a reflection of South Africa's heart, a heart that has endured the weight of history and still beats with resilience.